Welcome to the pitch. My name is Anthony Viscogliosi, and I will be your moderator for the pitch. As a reminder, this is a monthly program. It is scheduled for the second Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. At each program, two promising companies are going to be presenting their technology and their business plan to you, our audience, live. To watch last month's program clips, please visit ryortho.com, ryortho.com. With that, our presenting company for this episode of The Pitch has developed a patient monitoring system which detects acute compartment syndrome. What is ACS, acute compartment syndrome? Well, to start with, acute compartment syndrome is the number one malpractice risk for orthopedic surgeons. Compartment syndrome is a painful and dangerous pressure buildup in the muscle tissue from internal bleeding or swelling, typically in the lower limb and the forearm. Our next presenter, a company named Myo1, has created the first continuous monitoring system to detect compartment syndrome. What's Myo1's business model? How well does their system work? Let's find out. Here is Myo1's pitch.
Every year, there are over 500,000 trauma patients that are at risk of developing acute compartment syndrome. High-energy trauma causes swelling to build up within the muscle. If it is not diagnosed and operated on within 6 hours, they are at risk of having permanent muscle and nerve damage. 12 hours, and it could lead to amputation.
Myo1 is an innovative aid designed to reliably and safely assist in the identification of ACS within hours of the trauma.
For my whole career, I've been bothered by the fact that we don't have a good diagnostic tool for acute compartment syndrome. This problem is seen in every emergency room around the world every day. As a trauma surgeon, we rely way too heavily on subjective patient outcomes like pain. We end up operating on way too many patients in order to avoid missing a few cases.
We made Myo1 to solve that problem. We wanted to translate the technology behind Myo1 into a device that was simple, reliable, and easy to use. Myo1 measures pressure by placing a small sensor within the muscle, similar to the way an IV is applied. Myo1 quantifies the amount of swelling and relays the data to a cloud-based mobile app, giving the physicians a source they can use when deciding when to intervene. Myo1 is a simple solution to a dangerous problem.
So hi, I'm Charlie Allen. I'm the CEO of Myo1. We're a medical device company, commercial stage. I'll just give you a little brief understanding of what Myo1 means. So Myo is Greek for muscle, and 01 is digitalization. And so the idea is that we're digitalizing the muscle, and the goal is to try to digitalize healthcare. And we're doing that with connected sensors. We're working on a pretty big market. Right now, our focus is around trauma. We talked about this earlier in the video. Really focused around the high energy fractures, but we're also cleared for sports related applications, which we also have FDA breakthrough for. The key benefit of our device is continuous pressure monitoring. We're the only FDA breakthrough device to have that, and we're cleared commercially today. And really this continuous aspect is what's allowing physicians to catch compartment syndrome early before the really big bad outcomes start. So technology is really easy to use, so you can deploy it within seconds. This is actually a device being deployed into my leg by Dr. Harvey, the physician founder of the company. And it allows for the data to be delivered reliably for 24 hours. And so that's an important aspect of the technology. And really it speaks to the aspect of that is our patents. We're technology has 5 patents so far that are granted, and we have several more along the way. And all this data is moving towards our cloud-based app. And that's what's allowing the physicians to use the data to rule in and rule out compartment syndrome. And we can talk about that in much greater detail. This is some of our KOLs and a little link that shows the value of continuous monitoring. It's also, the continuous monitoring has already actually been approved by the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. And so we're just leveraging this data to really bring it out to the market. So it's both for ruling in and ruling out compartment syndrome. And we're showing that in our clinical research. Today, our device is, we've enrolled 130 patients across 7 level 1 trauma centers. We'll be at 200 by the end of the year. And this data is really showing high return on investment for our hospitals and our customers so far. And the key benefit is no amputations. So we're actually catching this early with 0 surgical site infection and unnecessary fasciitis. This data is going to be presented in large major conferences around the US this year. And so we're excited to see how that, and we're going to leverage that data to drive sales. Here are some of the hospitals that are currently reordering our device and continuing to use it on a regular basis. And so we're really excited about where we're going and what the next steps look like for us. So again, my name is Charlie Allen, and if you want any other information, just email me at charles.allen@myo.
Wow, that was impressive. Joining us from the company is MyoOne's Chief Executive Officer, Charlie Allen. Welcome to the pitch, Charlie. We're delighted to have you. Let's now turn the program over to our panelists and ask them to interrogate MyoOne. And we'll start the panel section with Audrey Beckman. Audrey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tony. Hi, Charlie. Congratulations to you and your team for what looks like a really interesting technology and a much needed area. I noticed that you are in a Series A raise in order to fund the building of a sales force. So that sounds like you're going to have a viable company for at least the midterm.
Yep.
Can you tell us why you chose that approach as opposed to an acquisition path?
Yeah, no, so we're excited. We really see an opportunity to become the standard of care in this space, and to do that, we really want to leverage the clinical work that's happening on our end. We've got several studies ongoing, 3 today that are currently recruiting, 4th that's on the way. We'll be at over 200 patients by the end of this year, and they're all showing very impressive results. We're commercial stage, and we're excited about where we're going. So that's kind of the plan right now, and looking forward to the next steps.
Well, that sounds great. And I noticed you've taken a number of pre-orders in addition to beginning sales. And so that sparks for me the question of your supply chain. Who's doing your manufacturing, and how quickly are you able to ramp up to meet demand?
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. We've been able to, our core technology is actually manufactured here in-house in Montreal, and we have outsourced manufacturers across North America that help build up our supply chain. A lot of our orders are actually reorders, not pre-orders, which is pretty good. So we've been able to meet demand as we speak, and we're looking forward to the next steps. We've got a plan in place today to carry us through the next few years of growth, and we're excited about how things are going.
Great. And I noticed doing a little bit of research that you've had several FDA filings. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on your strategy, your regulatory strategy? And it looked like there were separate filings for your device versus the app. So interested in your approach to that.
Yeah, so we used the 510K pathway to get through with the regulatory hurdles initially, and none of the other devices that are currently on the market have an application associated to them. So that was one of the unique aspects of our technology is really being able to display trends over time, and that's what the doctors are using to make strong clinical judgments. And it's really, we're seeing in the field today physicians that are really, using this data to inform their planning and their decision making moving forward. So the plan was to get it into the market with what's currently available and then add the app as we kept going. And we also have breakthrough designation, which we're excited about as well, which gives us a really strong relationship with the FDA.
That's terrific. Sounds like a well thought out strategy. Can you tell us a little bit about your IP?
Yep. We have 5 granted patents today. Part of it is on how it's deployed. So if something very easy to deploy, we have it within seconds. And then the real advantage that we have is around our MEMS sensing technology, so micro electromechanical system. We have about 4 patents around that are granted and several more along the way. That IP is really what goes towards making the sensor very reliable. We've got clinical data that shows that our product's 6 times more accurate than anything else that has measured pressure in the body before. And we're leveraging that to really drive better outcomes. And so we're really excited about where we're going and the IP that we've built up.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Charlie. Tony, back to you.
Thank you, Audrey. That was an excellent line of questions covering supply chain, regulatory, and intellectual property. Very fascinating direction. Let's go now to the medical view or the doctor's view. Dr. Paul Anderson, let's turn the floor to you and invite you to help us understand the importance and value of this technology to the physician community. Over to you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, worked at major trauma hospital, Harborview, and also at the University of Wisconsin. And so have been interested in compartmental syndromes and operate on many patients with compartmental syndromes. So the first thing that's unique about your technology is the continuous monitoring. I would not say this is the first time. There have been a number of early on, there were a number of monitoring systems that utilize continuous monitoring. And there was a study that looked at continuous versus intermittent monitoring, really didn't show any difference in outcomes. So that's one thing you're going to need to establish, is that this monitoring over time is important. Normally, we make a decision on a one-time basis. However, obviously in those patients who we suspect had a compartment syndrome, but their pressures are low, this may be the niche where your device might fall into. I was wondering, what kind of studies have you done to show that the numbers you get are similar to what we're getting with our current devices, where we have learned how to interpret those results, such as like the Stryker monitoring that most hospitals currently use? Do you get the same numbers if you put this in a compartment? I looked at some of your basic research and they seemed like it was a peritoneal cavity pressure model, which is not at all similar to skeletal muscle in the lower extremities.
Mm-hmm. We've got plenty of clinical data that we can go after.
And are these recordings transferable into electronic medical record?
Yeah, so there's a cost per patient. It falls under the DRG system. So the cost is quite minimal when you think about the overall cost of care for these patients. Our list price is $3,250. And we've been able to show that price is maintained over time because we drive value at the clinician sites. And the physicians are very excited about using it. The hospital also is very excited about where this is going. And the value that we provide on the technology side. For the integration with EMRs, it is something that we can do. It is not something that we've rolled out to many of our physician sites. What physicians or what our hospitals and our clients are doing today is taking print screens and providing the graphing and that they can put into the medical record.
I would say the one threat to your whole business model is that most compartment syndromes are made by a clinical diagnosis without the use of monitoring, and that frankly less than 10% of the patients that at the University of Wisconsin that get compartmental release we ever stick a pressure monitor in. So I'm not sure that the numbers of patients that need this is going to be that great from a business model.
So we do hear a lot of that. There are different groups of physicians that have different mindsets in terms of how they see the use of pressure value versus clinical signs. There are a subset of population where the clinical signs are very difficult to get in terms of the people that are intubated or have polytrauma and or other signs like that. Also, the clinical merit of pressure monitoring is something that we're going out and showing with the clinical validations that we're doing today. And we do think that pressure in combination with clinical signs allows the physician to get to the decision at a quicker or more confident level, and that's what we're seeing in our data, and it's showing that can drive significant value to the patient. The other area that's important to highlight as well is the medical legal liability around making a wrong decision or an overdiagnosis of this disease or underdiagnosis. Just last week, there was a case that went in favor of the patient, a 19-year-old boy that had an injury after playing soccer, was sent home after their tibia plateau fracture. And then came back 6 days later with full-blown compartment syndrome. That patient had a $10 million payout and $100 million in future payments for their problems. So the medical legal liability of this is very real, and having data to provide validation to the decision is one of the key aspects of what we can provide.
Yeah. The other problem with compartmental syndrome is you need to have a normative number to compare the pressures to. Typically, we use diastolic blood pressure as the norm, but nobody knows if that is the right value. So what is your control you're comparing to with this device? And do you get that printed out, or does the surgeon have to do some kind of mathematical correction?
So this is part of the regulatory strategy we talked about earlier. We do have updates to the application that we're constantly bringing up and running, and we're using physician feedback to improve that device and the workflow. Today, we provide muscle pressure. Tomorrow, we will have an input of the diastolic to be able to calculate perfusion pressure over time. And in the future, we want this to be as seamless as possible to get that perfusion reading as we continue. It's a pretty simple mathematical equation, but it's still something that obviously, if we can make it easier for the physician to get that data, we will.
Yeah, the problem is we don't know what the right delta is between the compartment pressure and the blood pressure.
100%. There has been a lot of research in Edinburgh. I'm sure you're familiar with all the work with Dr. McQueen that shows the clinical merit of continuous pressure monitoring. The one thing was that there wasn't a reliable tool available until now, and that's what we're providing. And we know that we need to provide the clinical values and the data. I urge you at the OTA, you'll see that we'll be presenting a lot of podium presentations and symposiums that will be geared towards showing how our device has helped guide and improve clinical outcomes.
Well, Dr. Anderson and Charlie, this is a really excellent dialogue because understanding how to change the standard of care and treatment is essential to technology success and business success. So I think some of the issues that Dr. Allen raised are valuable considerations for the company to incorporate in its thinking. Clinical evidence drives decision-making, and to change decision-making, clinical evidence is needed to support that change, and things need to be simpler, faster, less expensive, and superior outcomes, and driving the payer to require a new technology's use because it creates a better financial condition overall is a real important part of business strategy from my view. Having said that, though, we have some important dialogue to take place next with our next panelist, who's a real innovator, Mike Sherman. Mike, let's turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tony, and congratulations, Charlie. It's a cool device, and I have a couple of questions. Paul did a really good job of asking quite a few. Did I understand you said this is covered within the DRG, the existing DRG? Is that correct? That's correct, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's yeah.
So there's no additional payment to the hospital for using this.
No, exactly. It falls under the DRG system today. Though with our breakthrough designation, we do have an ability to get and apply for technology add-on payments. We haven't seen that be an issue in our current commercial launch. In fact, the physicians and hospitals are seeing the value, and we've been able to maintain our price and even walk it up in certain instances where we gave an institutional price initially.
I'm surprised because it's an expensive price. Just to follow up on a few points Dr. Anderson made. So if a patient has a swelling leg and a surgeon's made the decision to take a pressure, whether that pressure is with your device, you're not contending that your device is more accurate than the existing devices, are you?
So
it just offers different types of data versus time.
There's a few important differences with our technology. One of them is that our sensor is actually inside the muscle. And so you can get a much more reliable reading when that happens. It digitizes it right there. So there's no difference between the angles or the amount of fluid that's going in. There's nothing that has to do with fluid usage. So user error is much less with our technology. It's a much easier device to deploy and get reliable readings.
Yeah, I could see that, but is it more? But used correctly, is it any more accurate, or is it equivalent accuracy? Used correctly, the standard methods.
For a single point measure, you can argue that they're very similar. But our technology, the big value that we provide is reliable, continuous measurements. And there really isn't a technology available today. We're the only one that can allow for reliable, continuous readings over time.
Yeah, I think that's I thought it was very cool. So, if a surgeon is going to measure a pressure, whether they use whatever technology they use, they probably eliminated the possibility of missing the need to do a fasciotomy and then risking an unnecessary amputation. What they're potentially getting is the need to avoid a fasciotomy should the pressures trend down, I think. So the value proposition is maybe less so of missing a potential, a tragedy and missing something and having an amputation later versus avoiding an unnecessary fasciotomy going forward. And I do think that's valuable, but I don't think it's both. So you've raised $25 million already and are raising another $25 million, or is that what I understood?
So we're doing a Series A financing today to build up our commercial team and continue to build out the commercial sales. Today we have a chief commercial officer with 15 years experience in the field, named Arjun Ishwar. He's driving the team forward. We have a director of sales that we've hired in as well with 20 years experience, former striker. His name's Gino Lambo. As well as 3 regional sales managers. And our goal is to continue to build out that regional sales organization and continue to build out our sales as we leverage the clinical data that's being presented and continue to be presented this year.
What do you think the size of your potential market is? I mean, assuming you can't get all of it, but what's the potential market?
So you kind of highlighted it in terms of where the current need is and then where things are evolving. We believe that this technology, because of the landscape that it's in, and it is true. I mean, we talked about this. You need to have more clinical data to show the merits of this technology, and that's why we're doing all the clinical work we're doing, because we do feel like that, in combination with the medical legal landscape associated to this with this disease. We feel like there's going to be a point where this becomes the clear standard of care for all at-risk fractures. Today, pressure measurement happens 340,000 times a year. That's how many times that measurement's being taken. We believe that that number can be well above that in the future with more reliable continuous monitoring. So we think that it's all high energy fractures, or it's around 500,000 patients a year. And then there's this whole sports related aspect to this technology that we haven't touched on yet.
Sure, I'm more familiar with that actually. Look, I could keep asking questions, but I'm going to let you go. Thank you, Tony.
Mike, thank you for the quality questions. And if you don't mind, Charlie, I have a couple for you. Charlie, when venture experienced investors consider an opportunity to invest in a business, there are three important things that they look at. First, as Mike Sherman pointed out, identifying the large market opportunity and the related significant clinical need that's being addressed. Now, audience, what do you think? From what you've heard, is this a winner and a game changer? Or does this company need to go back to the drawing board? We'll turn the program over to Robin Young, publisher of Orthopedics This Week, who will conduct our polling today. Robin, over to you.
Let's pull up our poll. Is this a winner, future game changer? Could it challenge the standard of care? What do you think? Now's the time to vote. I think we're done. Could challenge standard of care, promising but needs more work. All right, these are pretty good. Overall, let's see if I do the math here, we're 60, almost 65% nearly. Say it's a winner, future game changer, challenge standard of care. Okay. Great job, everybody. And audience, as always, it is just, we couldn't do this without you. And with that, I will wish everyone a good evening. And thanks to our panel and our two companies for their presentations.